Alex from Kaleidos. I'm the CIO, and also I develop on Penpot, both on front-end and back-end sites. Penpot is like a huge project and with some complexity inside, so this is more like an introduction to the different areas of the project. So let's start. I will be using like the GitHub site, the documentation, my local shell, and a local browser, and some Code Studio just to show code. Okay, if you read, just you follow the README, you can finally arrive to the developed environment page. Yeah, and that it's like the easiest way to prepare your environment to develop with inside Penpot. So the easiest way is using this command, the manage sh run dev. It just depends that your system has Docker. So with this command, that is what I'm doing here. It's just starting Penpot in development mode. It's this internally. It is using Tmax and is launching 4 different tabs that are related with the different main areas of the project. So you can see I have 0, 1 are Gulp and Shadow Watch. Both of them are related with the front end, and well, we will explain more about that later. The number 2 is Exporter, and number 3 is backend. So if you go changing from one to another, all of them should be starting. I would like to speak about the main areas of code that we have. Okay. And well, the main areas we have like backend, common, exporter, and frontend. Okay, we have some other folders that are useful, but I think not for this introduction. For example, Docker. Docker contains all the Docker stuff related to, for example, this development environment that we have, but also for people who are installing Penpot locally, their own servers with Docker. So I think this is going very slow because of me sharing the screen and launching the development environment. Okay, these are the images, for example, and Gitpod is another place where you can deploy your Docker stuff. So experiments is like an old and deprecated area that we were using, but probably we will remove it soon. Sample media, probably it's more of the same. So the most important areas are backend, common, frontend, and exporter. Okay, and we are starting with the backend. First of all, our backend is mainly based on Integrant. Okay, it's a Clojure framework for building applications with data-driven architecture. So this is the base, and well, its backend isn't very complicated. Well, the main entry points, you can find scripts, start dev. This one is the one that is launched in the dev. But we also have some other ways of launching backend. For example, the REPL. REPL is sometimes useful if you are just developing something on backend, because you can attach code directly, or you can do a lot of magic stuff. Here in the documentation, there is like a lot of explanations about the structure of the app, about the backend. It's Clojure and a database and broker for messages. Sorry, and here it's explained like the backend src app. This is the main code content of the app. There are some other folders at main level. There are normal scripts is for launching and for doing some stuff. Test is for testing, and resources is for some static stuff that we need for backend, like templates and things like that. Okay, yeah, the main important part of backend, it's probably this HTTP. So this is like the initialization of the server and some routing handler, and yeah, it's like not very crazy. And most of the backend is just an API exported in here. Okay, so this one is the part that scans all these files and detect the methods that the methods that we are exposing, and it's attached then to API entry points. Okay, we are seeing like an example of this. Okay, so if everything is launched, okay, I should be able to access to API para /doc. Yeah, this is auto-generated doc for the application. Okay, so for example, you can see one of these endpoints, the get file. Here is the URL. Here are all the params that it needs. An example of the type of the response. So yeah, this is very useful. What I was trying to show you is how this get file is declared, and I think I can use it or sorry, or this one here in files. So this is the get file method. Okay, this is just a macro we use to make life easier. So we will see an example of how to add a new endpoint. But here what I'm saying is, well, when it's what added to the doc, and well, this is the important params are get file, and result s is file without permission. Okay, if you check here, it says that get file is that the parameters are like features ID and project ID. If I look for that into the file, okay, so here how this is defined: feature is an optional, ID is mandatory, and project ID is optional again. That it's exactly what it's reflected here. Okay, and well, for the file of permission, that is the result type. It's more of the same. Okay, but what if I want to add a new endpoint to the API? Okay, so I could do something like this. I'm creating like a very easy endpoint. Sorry, I think that I have this more or less prepared here. Yeah, I'm just adding this method. Hey, I'm saying that it requires no auth, and it's added on the 1.17, and it's just returning a random integer between 0 and 100. Okay, so this now I'm stopping this backend and I'm starting it in the REPL mode. Okay, I have to configure properly because my environment sometimes is a bit broken. But when the REPL is launched, then okay, here we are. So now I have a hey method with no, we could say I added no parameter validation and no response types. But if I access this method, okay, it's, I don't know if you see, it's I think what they say is if I 56, sorry, if I reload, it's a different number. Okay, so this way, with these few lines, we added a new endpoint. Of course, this is like a very easy one, but the idea is that you don't really have to write a lot of code to add more endpoints. Well, it's most of it is direct. If this method was in a new file, probably you will have to touch this RPC that scans the files. So, but if you add it to an existing one, you won't need to touch anything more. More important things about backend. This is probably the most important area, because then we have so for example, if you go to the util folder, so we have like a lot of code. So to make life easier, and backend macros, sorry, are defined here. So here is the dev method that we were using here in our code. That this is the magic it does. So we are just like extending the language just to make our life easier. Common is basically a stuff that it's not depending just on front-end or backend, and can be executed on both sides. One of the most important things in the common folder is all the validation of the data that we are doing. Sorry, common types. For example, I was trying to show the validation related with a shape. Yeah. So this is, for example, the shape. This is what it's a shape. A shape can be a group, a frame, a boolean, rect, circle, depending of the exact shape. It has some attributes or others. Shape adds are shared, and minimal shape adders too, and then they have like a specific, no? So like group ones or bool ones. Some has layout too. For example, if we go to the specific circle editors, it's here. Type is like it's the type in this case is circle. So this validation is done with Mali. It's another Clojure library, and it's both used on the front end and the back end. Okay, so another important thing of the most important thing probably in this common mode is the changes and change builder. These ones are managing all the protocol of modification of the file data. Okay, so this is like very core too, because when we have to allow undo and redo changes and all that things, so this is the code related to all that stuff. Exporter is probably the easiest or the less complex one. It's just a small application that it's compiled to be executing Node, and it's using Playwright like as a headless browser to connect to a front end and render the stuff that we need, and then allow exporting that. If we can check how it's working here. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So it's here we have the exporter using a headless browser to connect to a front-end app just to generate the stuff that we need to export. This is the biggest part of the code. Yeah, I told you that there are like two tabs on the Tmux, one for the gulp and one for the shadow watch. The gulp is trying to compile and to generate most of the static stuff like translations and some templates and stuff like that. So it's like this gulp isn't really complex. And the other tab is the shadow watch, that it's the one that keeps monitoring all the front end and showing changes in real time, your local host environment and the stuff. Okay, so if you take the package JSON, we have like more tasks, but basically those are like the important. The watch, that it's just using the shadow CLJS watch main, and some for testing, some for some tooling for translations and that stuff. But I think those 2 points are like the most important ones. Okay, so let's talk about front end. Yeah, this is the entry point. Well, in all of our models, you can find a main file where it's just the entry point. Okay, so here did you see this welcome to Penpot? This is the one that it's shown when you show this welcome to Penpot is just the first with our initialization. If I save, you see that it's automatically reloading, and this should say, hey, welcome to Penpot. So okay, so this is the entry point. It's just the initialization of everything, and yeah. Well, more about the front end architecture. Well, we have some folders like the resources for static stuff that we need, the scripts for some tooling or launching things that we need, like related to translations, and the tests are for like front-end testing. But if we go to the code, we have like well, for many leaves are libraries, problem, then main, util worker. We use a worker for all the expensive tasks that we are doing, and the interface like thumbnail generation or geometric transformations and stuff like that. Okay, and in the main area we have like two main sections, data and UI. All the data stuff is related to managing the state of the application, and all the UI is related to the interface that it's created with React. Okay, like the model of the application is not very complex. It's like we are managing a global state via events, and we are using Rx. So I think we can see this with an example. Okay, I think I'm going to this area of the access tokens. That this is where we were. So for example, this is the file access token that it's on the UI settings, access tokens. The stuff contained in the UI is where you will see the HTML tags, like so not in the data one. Okay. So this is the access token here, but I wanted to find like the main. Okay, access tokens page. This is like the main one. Thing like this. So for example, if I want to be sure that I'm putting things in the right place. So if I do this, I should see something being here probably. Yes, I'm here. Okay, so I wanted to show how we use the global state and how we get data, send data, and receive all that stuff. Okay, this is the accent token page. We have here a LED where it's using the tokens. Tokens, it's the ref of tokens ref. We will explain it right now, but actually the first thing that I want to show you is that this has an effect with no dependencies. So when this access token page is shown, this one is emitting a fetch access tokens. And what is this fetch access tokens is this one is in the data folder that I show you. So this fetch access tokens, actually what it's just doing is this again is just executing a command that it's get access token. Finally, this one is just launching an HTTP request to the get access tokens endpoint, and then it's executing a map for the access token to fetch it. Okay, all the watch events should return a stream or a null value. Okay, and all the update events, just should return an state. They update the state. Okay, so what is this doing? What is this doing here? When you emit this fetch access token, then it's going here. This one is launching the HTTP request. When it comes back, it's mapping it with this access tokens fetched. And this access tokens fetch, that it's an update event, what it's doing is that it's receiving an state and is storing in the state those access tokens. Okay. How we accessing them? Fine. Here we are doing a deref or tokens ref. Tokens ref is just a it's just a way of deriving the state atom accessing to the access tokens. Okay, if you see here, we are making an ASOC state access tokens, and here we are just deriving that atom for the access token. We can play a little bit with this. For example, okay, I think here we are doing the fetch access tokens. Okay, so I think we can do something like this. Let's say that we want to do. Sorry, I think I'm here. Yeah, in this effect, I will also like to do something called fetch. I'm using the method that we endpoint that we declared there. Okay, so this is gonna fail because this one that it will detect that. Okay, use of undeclared var fetch hey. Okay, no problem. What I can do here is okay, I think I can do something very similar to this for the hey method that I was creating. This is gonna be called fetch hey rpc fmd. This one was, I think, the hey method, and okay, and we are hey fetch. Okay, and I'm doing something similar to this fetch stuff. And so I'm storing this here and here. Okay, this thing should be working. Okay, if this thing is working, I should see here a call to hey. Yeah, it seems that it did. Okay, and I'm using, well, we have some debug tools, just for developing stuff. And for example, one thing that I can do here is debug point. I can do a dump of the local dump state. I think I can do it. And I was storing this in the state in the hey value. So I should see here a hey value that it's 8. Probably if I go to configuration and come back to access tokens and get this, okay, now hey value is 74. Okay, so now I'm connecting frontend with backend. Okay, but if I wanna, for example, use that value here too, I will have to derive the state atom and then derive the value. So probably I'm doing something like this. Okay, this was gonna be a hey ref, and I'm deriving. I call that in the state hey value. Okay, so I have a ref, and okay, I'm doing here this, and I'm doing the ref of hey ref, and then let's say that I don't want to use this access token hero, and I just want to leave with the hey content. Let's see what it happens. Yeah, so I think, well, you can see that 58. Okay, so if I change, it's a 21, and if I change, it's an 81. Okay, I can do that kind of things, and for example, I can add an on-click event. It's okay. I'm emitting this fetch hey event when with this effect when I'm painting the page. But if I think I can do an on-click event on this. Oh, sorry, I think I'm not doing. Yeah. Okay, now it makes more sense. Okay, if I click on the 62, it changed to 95. Okay, so now this is what I'm doing. So this is mainly how we are working with the state and the events, and we have just the watch, update, and effect events, and all of this is working with Penpot. Okay, I think this is most of the introduction that I have prepared. Thank you very much.